Good morning, everybody. Very happy to be here today. And before we get started, I would like to ask you, how do you feel today? Does anybody want to share with me how you feel? Anyone? Do you feel empowered? Is there energy in the room?
Yes.
Yeah? Thank you so much for sharing your emotions and your feeling with me. We are here in a trusted room. When you share your feelings with me, I can also share my feelings with you, and I tell you, I am so tired. I'm so exhausted. I worked for a big corporate on innovation, and working for a big corporate on innovation is really tough sometimes. And I would like to share a little movie with you that might explain you what I mean.
To see you.
A bit louder.
Too.
Hey, Flash, I'd love you to meet my friend. Darlin, I've forgotten your name.
Officer Judy Hobbs, CPD, how are you?
I am doing just
Fine.
as well as I can be. What
Hang in there.
can I do
Well, I was hoping you could run a play.
for you
Well, I was hoping you could.
today?
Well, I was hoping you could run a play for us. We are in a really big hurry.
Sure. What's the plate
29 T
number?
29 THD03.
So, my first message for today, I am not the sloth. I might look a bit like it, but I feel more like the rabbit. Okay?
9.
And
THD03.
my question to you is, guys, because, or let's say my hypothesis is the following. You cannot make this thing run. It most likely will die. You cannot shave it. It most likely will freeze to death. What can we do in a corporate to overcome this situation, right? You're the rabbit. You want to do innovation. What can we do? Any thoughts here in the room? Drugs. Okay, that's a possibility, but it might also end fatal. Well, the thing is, I believe we need to accept that this animal is the animal that it is. We cannot change it, and we also don't want to change it. We need to appreciate it. The corporate is the one that is earning the money, that is doing all the things to enable you to do innovation. So that it's fine that it is like it is. But if you want to successfully do innovation in a big corporate, you sometimes need to trick the system. My name is Mark Ritzmann. I'm Managing Director of E.ON Group Innovation GmbH. And I'm here today with Cristina Popa, who will introduce herself later. And we would like to talk about managing coincidence, which for me is a synonym of innovation in big corporates. How can we make innovation in big corporates happen? And if we trick the system, there are some shortcomings. We have experienced those, and Cristina will explain you how you can overcome these shortcomings by applying OKRs. Before I talk about innovation in E.ON, just to give you some thoughts, where are we today in E.ON? There was a big merger between Innogy and E.ON 4 years ago, and we decided to bring all of our innovation activities in the E.ON Group Innovation GmbH. We decided to start innovation by doing what I believe innovation is all about. There is a problem, we don't have light, and there is someone who says, I have a solution, the light bulb, I put it in, and it is shining, problem solved, and we have an innovation. I do not believe that we can generate innovations in big corporates by the CEO coming to me and telling me, Mark, where is the next 100 million billion opportunity, business opportunity? It doesn't work. We need to solve problems, and that's what we do. So our regions, we are in 15 markets, they approach us, they tell us this is the problem. We solve the problem with them, and while we solve the problem, we figure out if we can create a product out of it, if we can scale it functionally, if we can scale it internationally. And it is pretty successful, our model. Currently, we start around 30 projects per year, and after 1.5 years, we hand over successfully 10 projects to the business back to scale them. How do we do that? We overcome the 3 main problems from my perspective of innovation in corporates. And those are politics, ego, and failure culture. Let's start with the first one, politics. Politics is something that starts when more than one person is in a room. That's where politics starts. It's in your back, and you try to influence things in the way that you want. The more people you have in a room, the bigger the politics is. E.ON has 70,000 employees in a lot of areas, in a lot of companies. There is automatically lots of politics. So you need to overcome it, because politics also means that people usually look at innovation. What are these guys doing? We are earning the money and they waste it with their experiments. What we're doing to overcome it at E.ON Group Innovation is we said we need to prove them that we create value. So we have defined and aligned on our KPIs, and we deliver. And we need to do that better than the core business, because if we prove that we can deliver value to the company will give us the freedom to do what we want to do, which is driving this company forward by innovation. The next one is ego. Now, you might say, wait a minute, Mark, aren't the biggest innovators on this planet very well known for their ego? Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, they have a lot of ego, and they brought some of the most impressive innovations to this planet. That is true. But can you imagine how many I want to be Elon Musk egos ruined great businesses because of their ego? There are much I want to be Elon Musks that ruined stuff, and there are much more than the few that then finally made it. And especially in big corporates, that's a huge problem. The people believe they know everything better than the others, they drive it forward, and they fail because they just don't listen. They don't use the full capacity of their company. What we're doing to overcome that is we allow minority decisions. One thing in E.ON Group Innovation, not in the whole E.ON company. We allow people to have their views on the future and to bring them forward. And one thing that all innovations have in common, that in the beginning, most of the people didn't believe in it. I really do not believe why I should be more successful with this new phone that doesn't have a keyboard anymore, said all the BlackBerry users when iPhone came on the market. They were wrong. And there are a lot of examples like that. So when we make decisions and a minority likes something, we do it. And I would like to give you also a feeling about it, because that's a typical corporate decision-making. If you go into a board meeting and you have a proposal, what usually happens is they discuss for a while, and afterwards they agree on something, and then they say, yes, you have a go, or no, you don't, if they don't agree, or you have the mighty, powerful CEO who listens to you, but don't listen to you and decides. Now imagine you go to such a meeting and someone comes out there and listens to you, and the CEO says, Mark, I don't agree with your proposal, but I trust you're right, so why don't you go ahead and prove me wrong? And that's exactly what we need for innovation. And now we're coming to my most favorite topic, failure culture. If I would ask in this room, and you wouldn't be too lazy to stand up if you believe that failure culture is necessary for innovation, most of you would get up. I'm not trying it because some look lazy here. The and that's true in theory. In theory, you need a good failure culture to make innovation happen. The problem is, again, the implementation in a lot of corporates. Because what failure culture in those heads means, Cristina, thank you for your proposal. It's a failure. But hey, I'm so generous, I accept failure culture. So it's okay, right? That's what they would say. And that is the problem, that the people that proclaim failure culture usually have a clear view of what a failure is, and they believe that they decide this is a failure, this is not a failure. And that doesn't help innovation. What helps innovation is that those guys accept that they might be wrong, that they might think it's a failure, but actually it's not because they are wrong. And that's why I believe the mental model of diversity of thought is something which is much, much stronger. Because that means that you accept that you are wrong and that others are right. And if you do so, and if you accept minority decisions, you will be able to successfully launch products that you opposed in your own team. My most prominent innovation project at E.ON Group Innovation is something where I voted against a couple of times. Now I can stand here on stage and can proudly talk about it because I reduced my power, I accepted that I might be wrong, so I'm also part of the success even if I was against it. To summarize, what we do at E.ON Group Innovation is we accept minorities. We have achieved independence by really delivering. We're still aligned, so we're doing not this kind of submarine projects that pop up and say, hey, there's an innovation, won't you take it? We really solve problems. And the third one is we accept diversity of thought. We have subcultures in our team. We have different teams doing innovation in different ways. The challenge that comes with that is that by having this innovation culture, we are not always aligned, especially when it comes to targets. So if you talk to the different teams, they know exactly where they want to head. But if you talk to all teams, you will realize they have different approaches, they have different languages, how they talk, and they have different ways to define targets. Some of them apply OKRs, but they are not aligned in the language between the OKRs. And that results in something very interesting. We are successful. We have a great culture that people like to work in our company. But if you interview them and if you ask them, what is your vision and mission for E.ON Group Innovation, we got 6 different results out of 6 different teams. And that's where Cristina comes into place, who helped us to introduce OKRs. So Cristina, welcome on stage, and I'm looking forward to your part.
Thank you, Mark. Spannend. I just heard spannend. So before I start, maybe 1 or 2 sentences about my person so that you know who actually is speaking right now to you. My name is Cristina Popa. I'm a business psychologist. I'm a business consultant. I'm partner of Consistency, a small boutique company. And I'm absolutely passionate about digitalization and psychology. And even more, bringing those 2 topics together. So let's start. No? Other direction? There's something missing. However, we continue. All of you, maybe once in a while, will experience that even the greatest idea on earth can fail if you don't have a plan how to execute the idea. So, what is important to reduce the potential to fail with a great idea? It's to have a clear plan how to execute it, how to bring innovation to life. And there are some challenges underpinning the way to a true and strong innovation culture. And what can help to tackle those challenges are these 4 factors. It's about aligned targets on leadership level. And I mean really like starting from top-level leadership but also to the frontline employees. It's about having one common, aligned way on how to track targets. It's about a clear wording across all levels, and it's about understanding the impact that an innovation process can have on different cultures. So, to make it very short, it's good to have an idea, it's good to have a plan. However, we believe that it does not matter at the end how quickly you are. Because if you climb on a mountain, but it is actually the wrong mountain, then you still don't win the prize. And by the way, I just realized that this is not the right presentation. We still continue, because I know what actually should become now. So just in case you can switch it, it's fine. Otherwise, I can deal with this. So let's take a look into the aligned targets on leadership level. I don't know how you perceive it, but I hear it very often, like on daily basis, the term alignment, or phrases like, we should be very closely aligned on that. But what does actually that mean, being closely aligned? Does it mean being closely aligned on why are we doing that? On what are we actually doing? Or how are we doing that? Is it all of this, or is it none of this? So I realize we talk a lot about alignment. We are already kind of bored about the term. And we are also kind of tired to questioning what exactly is meant by aligned. So to make this even more tangible and give you I'd like to share a thought with you. So imagine we all are part of a captain's crew. Yeah? We are not here now in Munich, we are at the harbor in Hamburg. And there is a captain, and this captain goes from person to person and is sharing the coordinates, so that we all know, we think we know, where we want to end up. Yeah? And then we start our journey from Hamburg. And a small deviation, only of 2%, only 2, can make a difference in whether you end up in Brazil or in the US. And I think there's a difference, being in Brazil or being in the US. Both are nice, but yeah. And I like this very clear picture on the preciseness of aligned targets, because it shows and underlines that if you're not completely precisely aligned at the beginning, it can have a huge impact where you at the end will land. So when I started with Mark the journey, the OKR journey at E.ON Group Innovation, we also had those discussions, because one of the main purpose of E.ON Group Innovation is to reduce the CO2 footprint of E.ON. And also making sure that every project they are doing somehow pays into that. So I asked them, can you tell me, please, very precisely, how much CO2 you really want to reduce by end of 2023, 25? Because also here, a deviation of 2% can have a huge impact on the things and the projects and the topics E.ON Group Innovation will tackle or not, will prioritize or not. So next time when you hear somebody is telling you about an alignment workshop, or that somebody is saying, hey, let's align on this, stop for a second, hold on, and try to find out if you all have this common understanding. The second factor that can help us to overcome the shortcomings of innovation is one way to track targets across all levels. Why is this even important? It's important because, honestly, none of us really like to invest time to figure out how to fulfill an administrational task of tracking goals, especially in years like this, where we have tools for this. Yeah? We don't want to waste our time to figure this out again and again. We want to have one aligned, common understanding on how do we want to track goals and what do we want to track, on what level. And this, and this helps us, or if you would see what I see here on the screen, it's very entertaining, at least for me. So, why it's important to have an aligned alignment on the way how we track goals, not only because it helps us to reduce administrative work and relieve our agenda from those kind of tasks, it also gives us a way higher degree of transparency. When we all use the same way to display our targets, when we all share them transparently, we gain a database that is helping us to run decisions, to make decisions based on data and facts. Yeah? It also reduces maybe this struggle of having the feeling that I'm exposing myself if I'm doing that in that way, because maybe if Mark and me, we would do it completely different, maybe I am super detailed and he's not, maybe at one point in time, I get the feeling like, oof, I maybe share too much information, maybe I'm making myself right now vulnerable because I share so many details. But if we have a common understanding, also on that level, again, it helps us to improve our collaboration. So, now we click again to the part where we actually should be. Thank you for adopting that. By the way, this is our nice captain that led you to the US. And now, let's talk about the clear wording. Factor number 3 for successful implementation of the OKR method and of overcoming the shortcomings of innovation. What we experience quite often is that even we have now a common understanding of the target, where we want to be in future, we have the same way on how to track our progress towards this innovation, towards this future. If we are using different words to describe something, it can lead to confusion, misunderstanding, and misinterpretation. I will give you 1 or 2 examples very precisely. Let's start with stretch goals. Who of you is familiar with the term stretch goals? Okay. So, quite some of you. From the origin, stretch goals, by the idea of OKRs, are meant to be aspirational, ambitious, but yet achievable. However, what we experience is that when we talk about stretch goals or moonshot goals, that a couple of people are going with a mindset into working on this goal like, yeah, but we don't have to achieve it because it's a stretch goal. Yeah, nobody's expecting that we achieve it. And going with this understanding into a cycle already will impact your decision, your way of thinking, your way of acting. So stretch goals is one of this nice term, yeah, where we should be clear what we mean by this, because both can be acceptable, but you have to be clear to avoid misunderstandings on the target. Then the other term, it's check-ins. Who of you have already run some check-ins, OKR check-ins? Not surprisingly, the same people that heard from stretch goals. I don't know if you experienced that situation. I did, actually, quite often, that people, when we start introducing OKRs, have the feeling or the understanding that OKRs checks-in are just a substitute for status reports. In turn, the method per se designed this event to foster collaboration between the management and the operational level. It has nothing to do with status tracking. Even we do kind of a health check to see where we are right now, but we do it on a level where we want to go into a dialogue to see who needs help, how we can help, what should we maybe do or change. So the check-in is, again, a word, a term, where we should have a clear understanding and do not underestimate that you have to explain it more than once when you introduce OKRs. Then, last word, key results. Key results are often mistaken as checklists, task lists, or even KPIs. which again, this is not what it's meant by this. Key results are outcomes that are helping us to measure against our objective if we are on track or not. So if you don't put enough time or emphasis this clarification of crucial terms when you introduce a new way of working, then this will lead to struggle adopting to the new culture, which, by the way, leads to the fourth factor, how to overcome the struggles. Understanding the impact on different cultures. The most of you may know that this method was born in the US. And what is one of the most significant part of this method is that it will foster our motivation to stretch ourselves, to see what's possible, to try something new, to get in a mood where we are fearless almost, yeah, because we know it is worth it. It is worth to try it. It is worth to risk it. However, this is maybe not so easily to adopt in every culture. So you might heard of Gerd Hofstede. It's a researcher on cultural differences, cultural communication, and looking on, let's say, Germany, we're right now in Germany, then you will see that Germany is very high scoring in the field of uncertainty avoidance. Surprise. We are not the country that is super into the field of taking risks. So having this in mind, then you become aware that when you introduce this method in a more traditional organization or team, you might have to find ways how to take the fear from the people first. Because making things transparent, setting ambitious goals are all somehow potential situations in the future that lead me to that I'm failing. And failing is something that we can't do really good here. Yeah? On the opposite, when you take Spain, for example, they are not completely at the other end, but looking in there in the dimension of uncertainty avoidance, they have just a very low need to avoid uncertainty. They're actually more experimental. What they but prefer more is to have freedom. So they don't really appreciate a lot of structures. In the context of OKRs, this can mean applying a very strict set of how to write good OKRs, having plannings, retrospectives, checks-in, tools, health checks, etc., can feel very controlling. Yeah? So how can you address the fears of I get controlled for those kind of people? These are just two little examples. Yeah? But when you go in a company, you will see also several subcultures that can also differ widely from team to team. So take your time to not rush too fast in the phase where you get to know each other and try to find out what cultures, what cultural preferences are prevalent in that specific team or department. And then, if you are successful in tackling all those four factors and applying them well and taking your time, then you may get lucky, like Mark, and you have the effect that this is resulting in a common understanding, finally, of the shared and aligned E.ON Group innovation, vision, and mission. So, to end it up, let's worry less about our egos and start to act with small little steps. Let's take the people the fear to start by making it simple. Let's talk less about what could be possible in the future, even we want to have a clear picture in the future, but show what is already there, yeah? To build trust that it will work somehow. And promise less, but prove more if you're on the right track. Be your most critical advocate. don't be afraid to disrupt yourself. Thank you very much.
Now, one point that I wanted to add, and I hope that we brought this across well, is that some people would say if you run innovation, you need to have freedom. I mean, leave me alone with every controlling instrument or something. But actually, what we have learned is that by applying OKRs and by applying the learnings that Cristina just presented to you, we gain even more freedom. We can allow ourselves to have subcultures, to have minority decisions, and to be much more diverse in our thoughts, because we have this insurance or this security network of OKRs that makes sure that even if we are most creative, we still have a common understanding of our target and the same language we talk about it. Are there any questions to us? We would love to discuss them. The mic is coming.
Hi, I have a question to you, Mark. I find this minority decision concept interesting. How does that work? Because is that against a majority? Does that mean like there's a majority and you are going for the minority? Or are there just no majorities and then, well, you choose one of the minorities? How does it work?
Okay, so we make all of our decisions in our product board. In the product board, we are 7 leaders, and every leader has 1 vote. And in the early stages of the project, you only need to convince one of our leaders that this is the right approach. As a product manager, you come in with that leader, you pitch, and if you convince one more, so 2 out of 6, you get a go. Later, it's 3 out of 6, and then it's 4. But I don't have a veto. And that is basically how we run it, because, like I said, we believe if people believe in something like that, in a product, and they are really keen and want to drive it, we need to give them the freedom to do so.
Okay, but how would you then have your portfolio kind of, well, you'd also have some restrictions of capacities and these kind of things. So is that somehow reflected in that
well,
approach?
we can do a certain amount of projects, obviously. So we have filters, right? We only do stuff that we can do. We have a group looking into e-mobility, into network, consumer, and so on. So we have these categories, but the best pitch wins. And the thing is that currently our success rate is 30% of all projects are handed over back to the business and are big successes. So that gives us right currently.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Come on. Do we have another minute?
Okay. Then I'll go next. So you talked about culture, you talked about leadership. So what have you experienced? What are the leadership styles where you think that are more or less in contrary to OKRs?
Good question. Oh. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, works. Thank you for that. So I would not directly say that there is one prevalent leadership style that makes OKR completely impossible to execute and to introduce, but there are definitely, or certainly, some that makes it more difficult. To give a concrete example, so for example, Mark, can I take you?
Sure.
Okay. Mark is a leader with a more visionary style. Yeah. So for him, it's easy to adopt. Why? Because it emphasizes what he's believing on, that we should invest more time in creating outcomes. And sometimes this really needs to be brave, etc. However, people who tend to be very visionary sometimes, and this not applies to you, Mark, but yeah, struggle a bit with structures, with making those crazy ideas so specific and tangible that people can actually execute on them. So, and here OKRs is super helpful because it helps to operationalize, to break down a vision into the, let's say, more tactical layer. On the other hand, what I also experienced with very hierarchical leadership styles, so very commanding, when those kind of leaders are introducing the OKR method, and they're not applying, let's say, it by a book, for example, what means that? Top down, bottom up. So you involve people in the creation process. They still just formulating their OKRs and just communicate and tell them top down. Then of course you already, not destroy, but you definitely make it more challenging for the employees to understand what is exactly now the new way of working, because then of course the core of the OKR method is disrupted when you don't respect this. Yeah, so just to give 2 examples, hope this goes in the direction.
And if I may add, I mean, it's also a bit of loss of control if you accept OKRs, right? If you let your team develop OKRs and they are done, and then you say, I like it, I don't like it, I like it, I don't like it, the method will not work.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll just speak up. This is very inspiring. I was wondering if you can take an example of an innovation from E.ON and take us through the journey of how you did the OKRs and what kind of challenges you might have faced, if it can be shared. I mean, the concepts are very interesting, but it would be really interesting to see in a real example. Thanks.
So we don't have project-specific OKRs. We are currently having OKRs for our, let's say, overall steering and targets of the different teams, the overall targets that we achieve. For the individual OKR, for the individual projects, we're currently running 30 projects, and we also closed down a lot of projects. We don't have OKRs. We apply it for the overall steering of the company.
I understand. Thanks.
Welcome.
Question in the chat from Jörn. Why did you decide for OKR and not for BSC? BSC?
Balanced scorecard.
Yeah.
Did you even consider balanced scorecard?
Well, we met Cristina, and she convinced us. And I think I don't know the details. I mean, I know the concept of balanced scorecard, but I did not do a kind of rating which method is better. But what I can tell is that the way that you do OKRs, that you give the teams the possibility to influence them, it fits much better our innovation approach than all the other target setting instruments that I saw before.
I think this is exactly the right point. The question pops up quite often. Just to give one sentence, they are completely different concepts. So if you apply balanced scorecard, you definitely go for other effects than if you apply OKRs, I would say. Even those are goal-setting frameworks.
Then one more, Mark. So why do you not use OKRs then for your projects?
Good question.
We are in the beginning. We successfully applied it for our organization. We have a way that people pitch those projects and so on. And we might also extend it to the project. So that's an option, but we're not there yet. We first fixed all the challenges that I showed you on our general innovation approach with OKRs. So that works very well. And we might extend them, but it's not yet done. It's pretty fresh. Yeah?
Hi, I'm Chiara from Lufthansa. I have a question that goes exactly in the same direction. Maybe what is your recommendation, Cristina, when we're talking about OKRs and projects? Because we have tried to implement also OKRs for our projects, and we are not sure if we are on the right way.
So, test. So for answering this question, I actually would need to get some more details on the environment and on the characteristics of the projects, because actually for some project doesn't really make sense, to be fair, because you still put some effort into creating all the OKR sets, and some projects have from the beginning a very clear stage. They are not really aspirational. They are maybe more in the maintenance part. So what I definitely would not recommend is to do it just full-fledged per se for all kind of projects, and then also mapping the benefits of OKRs. So OKRs are then very helpful when you have the feeling that the alignment is difficult, that getting the project goal, for example, very clearly. And it's also helpful when, for example, the people don't really know where to go, so that there are very different options or bets on how this project could be successful, because this method is forcing you to align on something. Yeah. So, yeah, I could now talk, I think, 1 hour only about that topic, but yeah. So, does it help a bit to go in the direction?
And I would like to add one point and also probably give you an example of a typical project that we have. As I meant, in the title, we talk about managing coincidence. What do I mean with that? What I said also when I talked was, I do not believe in the kind of, please sit down, go into a room and find the next 100 million euro case in networks or in hydrogen. And if you look at our projects, what happened, for example, one example, our colleagues from UK approached us and told us, we have a customer, property developer, they want to install 70 heat pumps in new property, right? But the local network operator told them, unfortunately, our network cannot cope with those 60 heat pumps. The network will be overloaded. You need to pay us 2.3 million euro to upgrade the network. Unfortunately, that makes the whole business case of the 70 houses look very bad. They approached us. We went there. We solved the problem. First of all, we just solved the problem. We created a solution where we connected all those 70 heat pumps to the transformer station, and when the transformer station says, attention, attention, there might be an overload, we can reduce the load of the heat pumps, which is, by the way, a theoretic case, but very important because we don't want theoretic cases to happen and having blackouts and stuff like that. So that's how it started. So we just solved the problem. Then later we realized, wow, that is really cool thing that happens all over UK. We started influence and regulation, and we were building this up we built up a team. And actually in May this year, so in 2 weeks, or in 1 week, the regulation will be adopted to allow our solution to be implemented in the market. And now suddenly, it's a full team working on it, a full product category, and we're now figuring out how can we bring it to Germany and to other markets, even if they still believe they will never have a challenge, but there might be some challenges in the future. And the question is then where to apply OKRs, because it's a very dynamic thing, starting with a problem solution and ending up with a product category, or just ending with a problem solution or a failure, of course. Also part of innovation.
So, thank you very much for all your questions. We enjoyed to have such an active dialogue. Appreciate it. Thank you that we could do this keynote here together. I enjoyed it. And I think we are done. Time boxed. 12.
Bye-bye.